When we finished the mission, we were never trying to get famous. The story was never supposed to come out. We were in such a place that it was sort of one more mission. We knew it was a big one. We didn't quite grasp the gravity of how big it was going to be.
You are listening to Reinvented. I am your host, Jen Eckhart. We talk about heroes a lot on Reinvented. Heroes from all walks of life, famous or not, rich or poor, doesn't matter. But today on Reinvented, we have an individual whose courageous acts have changed the course of American history. This man has been involved in some of the most intense, complex, and famous missions in U.S. military history, over 400 combat missions to be exact. From growing up in Butte, Montana, to serving our country as a member of SEAL Team 6 in tactical missions ranging from Pakistan to the Indian Ocean, our next guest exemplifies everything about America that makes us who we are. He also played a critical role in uniting us as a country on May 1st, 2011, by killing the world's most wanted terrorist, Osama bin Laden, the mastermind behind the deadly 9/11 attacks that claimed 3,000 innocent lives. Since leaving the Navy, he has taken that same resilience, grit, and determination that made him a world-class special warfare operator and reinvented himself into a New York Times bestselling author, a renowned public speaker, a philanthropist, and father. It is truly the honor of a lifetime to welcome one of the most highly decorated combat veterans of our time, Rob ONeill, on the Reinvented podcast. Rob, welcome.
Thanks for having me, Jen. It's great to be here. Glad we made it work.
Glad we made it work. Rob, I have chills reading that introduction to you. You know, we have featured Grammy Award-winning rock stars on the show, you know, NFL Hall of Famers, and not to knock those guests, but this one just hits different. You know what I mean? I am truly in the presence of an American hero, a patriot, and I just want to start this off by saying thank you for your service.
Well, it's an honor. Thank you for the intro. That's seems like some big shoes to fill.
You can hire me as your publicist after this if this goes well.
If it goes, we'll talk in a couple hours, see how that goes.
You know, I have a copy of your book here, The Operator, that I have been poring over, and I've literally read page to page. I literally crash read your book ahead of this interview, almost like when you crash study before a major exam. I hope there's not a quiz after this. I think I'd pass. I'm not sure. But, you know, what I love so much about this book, Rob, believe it or not, before the book even begins is the author's note in which you state, quote, "One SEAL never returns a hostage to her loved ones. One SEAL never liberates a town from torturers. One SEAL never rescues a man behind enemy lines. One SEAL never kills the bad guy everyone has been searching for. When the gun fires, it's as if we all fire it." That hit me hard. Because I have to say, when then President Obama made the announcement on May 1st, 2011, that Osama bin Laden, the world's most wanted terrorist, had been killed, just one day before my birthday, by the way, Rob, hell of a birthday gift. Thanks for that.
You're welcome.
It was a victory, but it was a victory for all of us, you know? And I, you know, as cheesy as it sounds, I do equate it to Neil Armstrong's famous line, "One small step for man, one giant leap for mankind." You know, while there are those that believe that what the SEALs do should remain in the shadows, I am curious, what is it that inspired you, Rob ONeill, to write this book and to so publicly share your story?
The book was written because when we finished the mission, we were never trying to get famous. The story was never supposed to come out, and we were in such a place that it was sort of one more mission. We knew it was a big one, but we'd been doing it. Everyone on that mission had, I think, a minimum of 400 combat operations per dude.
Wow.
So we'd been there before, but we didn't quite grasp the gravity of how big it was going to be. But once we got bin Laden, got back to Afghanistan, and we're doing whatever tests and whatnot, and the internet was there. President Obama was on TV and said, tonight I can report to the American people, to the world, the United States conducted an operation that killed Osama bin Laden. We realized how big of a deal it was, and we did still want to be quiet, but there was no getting the toothpaste back in the tube. And it took me personally another year and a half to get out of the Navy after that. My end of service was coming up a few months later, but I went back to war one more time just to sort of say, I came in through the front door. I'm going to leave through the front door. I did get out. My first few jobs were in and around Virginia Beach, Washington, D.C., New York, and then places in Mississippi of all. Long story short, a few years into it, there was a congresswoman from New York, Carolyn Maloney, that asked if I could donate a piece of my gear to the 9/11 Memorial Museum. And I brought my shirt in, and it was anonymous. The shirt that I wore in bin Laden's room with the American flag still on it.
Wow.
And as we're donating it, even as we're donating it, the curator of the museum's holding it with like salad.
Tongs?
Yeah. And I kind of went up and grabbed it. Said, you can't touch that. It's historic. I'm like, I just took it out of my bag. It's
right. You're
whatever.
like, it's crumpled in my bag.
But she brought us, the curator and Carol Maloney and some friends, we went into a room and there was maybe 30 people who had lost loved ones on 9/11, which is reliving the worst day imaginable. That was the first time I told the story about the raid, and the responses in there from family members, they'd said there's not closure, but it helps the healing process to put a name with a face. Like, this is my real face, my real name. And I was there when bin Laden died. I shot him 3 times. And the way that it affected them, I decided if I can help them, I can help more people. So I did write a book, the only one at the time that was approved by the Department of Defense and by the agencies involved. So that's the real story in there. And it's called The Operator because I'm not calling myself the operator. The operator is anyone who does anything to help with anything. So like in New York, the dudes who wake up at 2 a.m. to clean the trash out of Manhattan, they don't get thanked, but they're operating to make it a better city. The single mom who puts her kids through school, that's an operator. So this is my story as an operator, and I'd like to hear other people's stories as operators, because if you're doing anything, you're an operator too. That inspired the story. I wrote it in 2017, and it was a bestseller.
Thank you for clarifying what the operator meant, because I was curious, and that actually wasn't even a question of mine, but those people like in those thankless jobs that you don't often think of, this is your way of paying it forward to them and sharing your story.
I have my own podcast, the Operator Podcast, and I had a guy tell me, because I like to, unlike a lot of people, I read the comments.
So, in other words, you are not Billy Corgan from the Smashing Pumpkins. He always yells at me. He's like, why do you read the comments, Jen? Because I'm like you. But I look at it as like constructive feedback. You know what I mean?
And also, but I take it with a grain of salt. It's not someone yelling at me. It's someone yelling at their phone about something they disagree.
Right. In their mother's basement.
But that's it. So it's that. But I'll take what people say. And I had a guy that said he's a custodian at an elementary school where he cleans the damn school. Yeah. And he said, he's not looking for thanks, but he's keeping it clean for the kids. And he said, I listened to your podcast, and hearing you say that made me feel better. And that makes my day better. That's a comment worth reading. It's worth the 10 hate-filled comments to hear one good one.
Right. But then there's always that one.
That son of a bitch. I always answer those assholes.
You blacked out selected text in the book to comply with the Department of Defense and Security Review. I am a recovering TV, emphasis on the word recovering, TV journalist and producer who worked for a national network not far from where we're sitting right now. And I can say, Rob, with authority and with absolute certainty that, the media more often than not, we do get it wrong. You do mention that in your book. In your experience, I am curious, as a journalist, what has been the single biggest frustration on your end that the media ran wild with or maybe like missed the mark on as it concerns you?
They do it every day, and it's because they don't give a shit about the truth. They care about, it's more important to be first. Mm-hmm. And the bombshell will come on the front page. The apology comes on 16. Mm. And I worked at the same news place, by the way. Just saying.
Yeah. Samesies. We can compare notes after this, perhaps.
But
I got chills when you said that just now. I'm not even kidding, because I have been behind the wizard's curtain, and I do know what goes on, at the highest level of media. So, but so you said something interesting. They want to make news first, and then the apology comes what on this?
If at all. And nobody cares about the apology. If you look up anyone's name on any search engine, and you're going to get the crap
Right.
And then maybe if you look hard enough, you'll find that, we were wrong and here's the correction. Yeah. I've seen it in my own hometown newspaper in Butte, Montana, of all places.
Oh, come on, Butte.
And you know what's messed up, though, is there's not a lot of dummies working as producers, as on-air talent. They're smart people, so a lot of it's on purpose.
A lot of it's strategic.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of it's strategic. Gosh, I've had producers say to me before, I remember cutting footage from a terrorist attack, and they said, it's not bloody enough. It's not, we really want more, gore. And I just remember why? It's very strategic in what the media
And
does.
a lot of it's a game to them, too. A lot of it's not. Well, a good example of the media is being from Montana, I can see this, that there's New York, D.C., and Los Angeles, and to them, the rest of it is just the Midwest.
You're right.
No, it's like, so where are you from?
Right.
Butte, Montana. Oh, the Midwest. No, pretty far from the Midwest, but thank you.
Right.
But they're echo chambers.
They are.
They all say what they all like, and a lot of them know they're right. And it doesn't even matter which network. The higher you go up, it turns into the uniparty type thing.
Yep.
And to the almighty dollar, follow the money. That's not bullshit.
Yep. Well, I said the word recovering. I'm pretty content being the captain of my own ship right now, not having corporate overlords tell me what I can and cannot do. So I am enjoying this, being outside. Same with my camera guy, Mike here. Hey, he's he worked for that same company. So, I'm going to get into what everyone's dying to hear about, which is you killing the world's most wanted terrorist, Osama bin Laden. But I did bring you on this show for more reasons than just that. I sort of want to peel back the layers of Robert ONeill because I just find you to be an all-around fascinating person. You made, and I love this, you made an impulsive decision to join the SEALs.
Yeah.
In fact, the very first line in your book is, quote, "I owe my career as a Navy SEAL to a girl."
Yes.
I love that so much, but I mostly love it because you are a girl dad, and your girls will grow up one day to read your words, and I hope will feel so empowered by that message. For some of my viewers and listeners out there who haven't yet read The Operator, can you share sort of like a Reader's Digest version of that story with that girl that ultimately got you to enlist in the military?
Yes, and I noticed once I got there, both men and women, that's a familiar thing that happened. They had a bad relationship and it was time to leave.
Wow.
And I remember I met a girl in the Navy from Fredericksburg, Virginia, and she said the same thing I said. I just had to get out of there. And the way it worked with me is if you want to make God laugh, tell him your plan for tomorrow.
Yeah.
Because it's probably not going to happen. My plan was play college basketball, which I was doing, to get an MBA and work with my dad as a broker. That was the plan. And then I had a bad relationship, got dumped, and it was just time to leave Butte, Montana.
Wow.
And I was never necessarily a patriot. I didn't know how to swim. Stuff, it was never a all or nothing, but I had two friends that wanted to be Marines the entire time we were growing up. They were Marines. When they came home, they looked like Marines. And I was like, I'm going to join the Marine Corps. So that's it. The Marines will have me on a bus tonight. I'll be at either Parris Island or San Diego, Marine Corps boot camp. I've seen the movies. So I'm going to join that. And I went in there, and as luck would have it, the Marine recruiter was not in the office, but the Navy guy was. And so there's 4 different offices, obviously the Air Force, Army, Marine Corps, and the Navy. My 2 Marine buddies told me, and I didn't know this, they said the Marine Corps is actually part of the Department of the Navy. It's just the men's department. And that was a joke. But because of that joke, I looked over and I was like, well, if anyone's going to know where the Marine is, that Navy guy will. So I walked over, I said, hey, where's the Marine? He said, why do you want to be a Marine? I said, I want to be a sniper. I grew up hunting.
Oh, hell yeah.
And I want to be a sniper. And he said, well, look no further. We have snipers in the Navy. You need to become a SEAL first. No big deal. Just sign right here type shit. And I didn't know what I was getting into. It sounded like a sweet deal.
Is that true? You have to become a SEAL first?
Yes.
Wow.
But I didn't know how to swim, but I didn't know what it was. And I'm standing over this guy, and I'm thinking, I'm 19 years old, I'm kind of naive, but he's a professional recruiter. Why would he lie to me?
Right.
And he just
you
wanted
didn't know.
But he's lying to me because he doesn't care. He wants a quota.
Right.
And I signed up, and I found out what it was. And but the cool thing is I love the butterfly effect. The smallest decision that you make or did make 30 years ago. How much effect does that have on you now? And I tell my daughters that if that Marine recruiter was not at Arby's, you wouldn't be alive. Because I would have joined the Marine Corps. And I never would have met their mom.
Absolutely.
Isn't that crazy to think that? The littlest decision.
Is wild.
He needed to get his...
So you just got your heart broken by this girl.
Time to leave.
and her towering Italian father, as you describe her, because I did read your book.
I can tell, and I'm very impressed, by the way.
And like, I guess scared the living daylights out of you?
His job, his company that he owned was a house moving company. So this dude moved houses. He wouldn't have a problem moving 18-year-old Rob ONeill.
Yeah, right.
He's a big dude. I'm fortunate, though, he's a very nice guy, because it was one of those breakups, and I was like, you know what? I'm just going to leave. And that was it. I joined the Navy. And my wife calls me the luckiest unlucky man in the world. I'll show up, but some back it up, but I'll end up winning. I joined the Navy, didn't know how to swim, but I still had my ID at Montana Tech. They had a pool. So I went to Tech, got into the pool, and I could keep myself alive. But I'm like, okay, it's 25 meters down.
That's not saying much.
25 meters back. I'll swim 1,000 meters and gauge my technique.
Right.
Everything was going fine with my plan until I entered the water, and that's when the problem started.
Right.
Because I'm winded. I'm like, my God, I just signed a contract.
Right.
And my friend Mike walked in.
Well, I'd imagine there's not a lot of swimming pools in Butte, Montana.
No. And there's not swimming. We're landlocked.
Right.
But being lucky, my friend Mike Driscoll walked in, who was going to swim for Notre Dame. And he said, don't take this the wrong way. It's great to see you. I've never seen you in the pool before. What gives? And I said, I just joined the Navy, and I'm going to be a SEAL. And he said, not like that. So he got me back in and showed me some techniques. And then I was able to work on those for a while just to get proficient enough to pass the test.
So you weren't wearing like floaties or anything?
No, I should have been. Same thing with pull-ups. I had my stepdad build a pull-up bar. I couldn't do pull-ups. Yeah. I didn't know any of this stuff.
Not many people can.
They're harder than they look.
I could do like 2, 3 maybe on a good day,
good.
Rob ONeill. Yeah. Anyway, so, okay, moral of the story, if you get your heart broken,
join the Navy.
Join the Navy. There you go. Life advice with Robert ONeill.
Well, the way I told you, they call it in the military 3 hots and a cot. They're going to feed you. They're going to house you. You can go now.
Yeah, I thought that was only used in prison, but I guess also in the military.
But it's a nice thing for equal opportunity.
Yeah.
You get the equal opportunity to join. You can go right now.
Yeah. You mentioned in your book that you and your father developed sort of an unusual father-son dynamic and that you were like best friends. Mm-hmm. I closely identify with that because I'm a total daddy's girl, and I have a similar bond with my own father, who just celebrated his 80th birthday. He too is a veteran. He's a 3-time cancer survivor, a retired lawyer, and a world-class fisherman. He holds 4 fishing world records. He's so humble and will probably be so embarrassed that I am sharing this information on my show. But he is, in fact, my hero. We are talking a lot about heroes here. Looking back, what would you say is the biggest lesson your father instilled in you?
The biggest lesson was, I don't know, I think it's a muscle memory lesson where we'd play basketball every single day, and we weren't allowed to leave the gym until one of us made 20 free throws in a row. Yeah. And so the way it works is you start with a make and then don't move your feet. Like when the tournament's on now, March Madness, nothing. God, I get irked when someone makes their first free throw and they leave and start. It's like your feet are set. Right. Make the second, then we can all talk about how awesome you are. But we would. One of us had to make 20 in a row before we left. And the cool thing about it was so my season would end, and then my high school season would end. Then we would start our season. When our season started, it was 20 free throws to leave the gym, 20 free throws to get a steak at the Derby. Wow. But every time we hit 20 for that, it would go up by increments of 5. So it's 20 to leave the gym. Now it's 35, 40 to get a steak, 50 to get a steak. And we got to a point and
you wanted that steak.
Yeah, but I mean, it goes up every time. But we got to a point my senior year, I think my dad made 91 free throws in a row, which was the family record for a week, because then I made 105 in a row.
Are you kidding me?
No. We got really good at that. But see, it's all muscle memory. And what that taught me as far as shooting later in life is if you want to be good at something, do it 1,000 times. You want to be really good, do it 10,000 times. You want to master it, do it 100,000 times. And so it's the same thing every time. Same thing with shooting. Same thing with everything. Do it again and again.
I feel like one of your daughters is going to, it has to happen. She's going to grow up and she's going to be a professional basketball player.
I don't know if we have that in us yet. I'm, like I said, if they can maybe fly jets or just, stay at home and stay out of trouble.
That's amazing. So do you ever look back at what your life could have been had you gone a different trajectory and decided to become a professional basketball player?
I don't think I was going to make it in the NBA. I don't think I was fast enough.
I don't know. You made 105 free throws in a row.
Yeah, but you got to play defense. Plus, in my era, John Stockton already filled that 6-foot-tall white guy quota for the NBA. So I don't think I was going to get there.
All right. Okay. Fair enough.
But playing college basketball was awesome. That would have been cool to be able to play and then, get a degree and see where that takes. Because Montana Tech's a great engineering school. I have friends who are engineers now. It's kind of neat job, smart jobs. My job was easier in the Navy.
You described your childhood as idyllic. You kicked the can,
yes.
War, ninjas, roof jumping. I feel like kids today are so glued to their devices and social media. You rarely see kids today like build a tree house. You are a father to 4 daughters. Mm-hmm. You just welcomed your new baby girl, yes. Valor. Amazing name, by the way, and very appropriate given the circumstances. Rob ONeill's Daddy Daycare. What is the curriculum?
That's a great question. The curriculum is no helicopter parenting.
Oh, I like that.
Also, kids need to interact, but not in a lot of. See, I don't think interaction in schools is where everyone, hey, the bell's going off. Everyone get in line. Everyone sit down. Everyone listen till the bell goes off. I think the recess stuff's more important. And I think as far as getting to know each other, that you're going to need to get skinned knees. You're going to need to fall down. And what I've learned, one of the best learning tools in life is failure.
Yeah.
No one's ever won everything. And look what we have now with everyone gets a participation trophy.
I know.
Everyone's the whiniest little, I need immediate satisfaction now. Yeah. I mean, I hate bullying, but I agree with being able to bump into each other and all this stuff and arguments and fights. And the bullying thing pisses me off, but kids need to be able to play. Yeah. And play is gone. I mean, I hopefully am not around when the adult male is the one with skinny little arms and a humpback because they've been staring at their phone for 25 years.
Yeah.
That's a problem. Yeah. People don't get outside. They don't play. I mean, they do, but a lot of them don't. A lot of them can't live without their screens.
Do you think that that's a problem when recruiting for the military today?
Yes and no. A lot of the future warfare is going to be with artificial intelligence, drones, space war, stuff like that.
Yeah.
We're going to need what happens when the electricity turns off? And I don't mean I mean when the war starts where everything's off.
Right.
Can you use a map and compass? Can you make a fire?
Right.
Because I think
basic survival
Albert Einstein
skills.
said something about because once they invented the atomic bomb, they wanted to reinvent it. He said something along the lines of, I don't know what weapon is going to end World War III, but I know we'll be fighting World War IV with sticks and stones. So wow. Can you master the basics, the little stuff like can you do it 10,000 times?
Right.
Because if your GPS doesn't work, can you get to the store that the shelves are empty? Can you get home and make water?
Did you see that Julia Roberts movie? I forget the name of it. It was on Netflix, I want to say.
I didn't. I know what you're talking about.
But you know what I'm talking about? Like all the GPS shuts down, like planes crash, and people actually have to rely on basic survival skills. So that's really interesting. There's a lot of truth to what you're saying. Yeah, but it's real.
Remember there was cool movies about a lockdown because of a disease? Oh, look at that movie.
Yeah.
And then it happened.
Yeah. Remember that. Yeah.
This is called an electromagnetic pulse, and that's one of Chinese weapons.
Yeah. Yep. I adore girl dads. I told you this when we first met. I just find something so damn cute about a tough guy like yourself being a father to daughters. I have to know, that first boyfriend that Valor brings home, how is that going to go? Like, what would some of the Rob ONeill interrogation questions be?
One of the I'm going to steal this line, though. One of the comedians from the Blue Collar Comedy Tour, either could have been Jeff Foxworthy or Ron White or one of those guys, Larry the Cable Guy. One of them said the key is when she brings her first boyfriend home, you got to be cleaning your shotgun and let the boy know I got no problem going back to prison.
Wow. Yeah. No, I love that. Kind of like a scene out of, I don't know if you've seen the movie Den of Thieves.
No.
Where, or even like Bad Boys 2.
That's one of the best scenes in movie history.
Yep.
When the poor dude comes up. He's look 30.
Right. There's also a scene in the movie Den of Thieves where 50 Cent brings his daughter's boyfriend into the back room and there's like 20 guys just standing there ready to go to war if he breaks her heart. So I picture that in your house.
I'm going to see that, yeah.
So an interrogation question. So you mentioned cleaning the shotgun. Would you ask anything else or?
You know what? No, I have, because I've got older daughters and I do have trust in their judgment. And I would give, because I've got other daughters that date and I've met boyfriends before.
Okay.
And I've been impressed because I'll sit here and say, well, the phones are too much and the screens. I'm not going to mention the ages, but I had a recent boyfriend stand up and shake my hand, look me in the eyes, which is huge. Like
that's a big thing.
A rule as a man, you never shake anyone's hand sitting down.
Yes,
and
of
just
course.
to look someone in the eye as a teenage kid, It's a good first step.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree with you more. You know, in your book, you talk about how supportive your parents were despite them being divorced at your age. I think it was 6 years old.
Yeah.
You said how normal it felt that you had 2 locations to visit them as opposed to the one, traditional household setting. I found that very almost refreshing and sort of interesting, because you often hear about the difficulties that divorce has on children. Can you share a little why you and your siblings seem to thrive despite this unorthodox dynamic?
Well, there's going to be fights with adults who are divorcing or separating or breaking up, but it's on the parents, not the kids, because I think a kid's initial reaction is to blame themselves for a divorce. Our parents were good at I don't know if they were really good at not blaming the other, because obviously there's stuff going on behind the scenes that they're not telling their kids, but to at least seem amicable was really good for us. And they would bring it, as opposed to bringing up the negatives, they'd bring up the positives.
Right.
It's like when you're correcting your kid, you don't want your kid to always hear, no. You should hear, yes, and. It's like, can we have candy? Yes, and we can do it after dinner. Shit like that. But that's
great. You should write a parenting book after this, Rob ONeill.
Hey, the sky's the limit. But even, I talk to both my parents pretty much every day. They're both still alive in their mid-70s. And they're like, whoa, I think he's an asshole. I just never told you that.
Okay, but that's so healthy. That's really good, though. Yeah. Don't, throw the other
2 Christmases
person under.
And it was great going with my dad.
And more gifts to go around.
We didn't realize that my dad was kind of the bachelor because he was a young man when he got divorced. So we thought it was normal to, when he picks us up on Friday, we go right to the grocery store, up and down every aisle getting food, because he just didn't have food in the house. We thought he was treating us to a big weekend. It's like, I just don't want you to starve.
Right. Oh, he's like I only have beer and mustard in my fridge.
Nowadays, that's fine. We're good.
Yeah.
We're good with that, Dad.
All right. Shifting gears from girl dad to Navy SEAL. For my viewers and listeners who might not know what BUDS is, Basic Underwater Demolition SEAL Training. That's a mouthful. It is designed to be one of the most demanding mental and physical trials known to man. You discuss in great detail your time on San Clemente Island. It's an island off the coast of San Diego, solely used for SEAL operations. When I think of that island, I think of Skull Island in the movie King Kong. Yeah. SEAL instructors often refer to it as the island where no one can hear you scream. That's pretty dark, Rob. Can you share some of your toughest trials you were forced to endure, including maybe the worst part of your preparation to become a Navy SEAL? I'm almost scared to ask this.
Well, the SEAL training itself, BUDS, Basic Underwater Demolition SEAL Training, is about 28 weeks long, and that's from day one to graduation. There are
if you make it.
If you make it. Also, there's about 5 weeks of preparation before that. So a lot of people, half of them don't make it to day one, and then out of that, 85% don't make it to the end. And so
that's 85% don't make it.
And so there's 3 phases. The first phase is physical training, which is 1,000 push-ups a day, 1,000 sit-ups a day, 1,000 flutter kicks a day. There's one spot where we're doing all this stuff to include an obstacle course, miles of soft sand and salt water, ropes to climb. But then it's a mile from where you do the stuff to the chow hall. So every day, regardless, you're running 6 miles just to eat. Yeah. That's 6 miles for nothing, just to eat. And then an additional 6 to 10 miles with boats on your heads. All kinds of tests and drills, everything from having your hands tied behind your back, your feet together, thrown in for an hour at a time, doing different drills, floating, 2-mile ocean swims, 5.5.
So wait, they hog tie you and throw you in the pool and you have to get out of that?
You have to just live.
Oh.
So you learn if you exhale, you can sink. And then if you kick off, you can inhale and exhale to sink. And then you have to float for 5 minutes, which is hard. You just figure it out. But what they're instilling in you, there's not really a time limit. What they're teaching you through negative reinforcement is that panicking is not going to help you, is it? So you learn to not panic, just stay calm. They'll untie you eventually. Right. And you got to realize they're not going to let me die. If everyone died, there wouldn't be any Navy SEALs. But that's the first 9 weeks, and there's 7 weeks of open circuit, closed circuit, scuba, always, and you're getting beat up the whole time. Right. And then the third phase is weapons, explosives, and then the final 40 days of San Clemente.
I feel like that's the fun part of it.
There's nothing fun about it.
Oh, okay.
No, I describe it as it's fun now.
It's hell.
It's fun now because it was 30 years ago.
Right, of course.
But the last part is San Clemente Island, 40 straight days, no days off. and no one can hear you scream. And the way it's so San Clemente Island and there's San Catalina, and in between those two off the coast of California, it's a great white shark breeding ground. So you know they're out there.
Right.
You know they're there.
Yeah.
And I'm a big believer. I love sharks, but I'm a believer if you can't see them, they're not there. Just don't worry
out of
about
sight,
it.
out of mind. Ignorance is bliss.
It's up to them.
Right.
Because you're at the bottom.
You
of
don't know what you don't know.
But the first thing they do when they fly you out to San Clemente Island, it's at night. You put your bags down. They bring you into the classroom. They show you an hour of highlights of
the best of
shark attacks. And then you all have to do a night swim to the mile buoy and back, knowing there's sharks out there. And that's that swim is hilarious because normally we're competing. This one, it's like strength in numbers. It's like this big blob of students. And then you're out there and you're in really good shape at that point. There's no alcohol, so it's all like milk, meat, bread, running, and then you finish and you're in really good shape, and then it's time to do more training, get to a SEAL team.
One of my favorite parts in your book was where I think you referred to him as Instructor Picnic, I think.
Yes.
So he said, I'll be alongside you boys in one of the safety boats with my bucket of KFC throwing chicken bones at you the whole way, chumming the water. You said I was laughing. You go, he was a dick, but that was funny. Like, so funny, Rob. Like, excellent writing. He then went on to say, if you think there aren't great whites out there, you're lying to yourself. You suddenly stopped laughing. So, you reference in your book that SEAL instructors made you guys watch Shark Week, the best of Shark Week. And then you went on that, I guess what's called a shark appreciation swim at night, wearing your wetsuit, looking like a SEAL. Anyone who knows me knows that I'm obsessed with sharks. So much so, Rob, that I plan my entire year around Shark Week.
Good.
My father caught a 999-pound hammerhead.
Nice.
Yes. So I have to ask, did you ever have a run-in or a scary encounter with a shark? Not in your time of training to become a Navy SEAL, but just in general.
One of my hobbies is diving with apex predators. So I've been in the water.
Most people knit a scarf, he's like, okay, let me find the most dangerous hobby and go all in.
See, it's not dangerous because we're not on the menu. If we were on the menu for sharks, there would be 20 fatalities a day, minimum. Yeah. But I finally, one of my lifelong dreams was to go to Isla Guadalupe, which I did in Mexico.
That's a bucket list item for me.
And over the course of 3 days, I saw 33 different great whites.
Wow.
My only complaint is the Mexican government makes you stay in the cage. I would rather get out and be free dive with them.
Yep.
Because with great whites, especially if they can see you in a day, the bigger they are, the safer you are because they're old. They realize that you're not on the menu.
Right.
Like the great whites that will hit will be the juveniles in the surf zone, and they're in the surf zone eating skates and rays, avoiding the bigger sharks because everyone's on the menu.
Right.
And if a shark doesn't have arms, and the only way to test you is to give you a quick bite. And if a great white does that, I don't care the size, that's devastating.
Right.
But some of the best shark diving, if anyone wants to go, is Bimini. Yeah. And the great hammerheads, the tigers, the reefs, the lemons. Now, there's bull sharks there. I don't like bull sharks.
Tiger sharks, bull sharks make me nervous.
Tigers are friendly.
I have swam with reef sharks, nerf sharks, lemon sharks. They ain't shit.
Well, you realize you've swum with every shark. You just don't realize it.
Yeah, I mean, I guess.
But no,
Robert ONeill.
tigers are nice. Tigers are funny. They have different personalities. Like,
don't they call them the garbage disposals of the sea?
Yeah, they'll eat tires pretty much.
Tires.
But see, the bulls are the jerks because they have so much adrenaline and they're just aggressive and they like murky water and shallow water. So if you run into a 12-foot bull shark in 2 feet of water, that's a bad day.
Right. Don't they swim in rivers too?
Yes, they do. They swim way up rivers.
Yeah. See, we could dedicate this entire podcast to just talking about sharks.
But tigers get a bad rap because I think if a bull attacks someone, they say it was a tiger, it's a bull.
Wow.
I think tigers are friendly.
Yeah.
And unless they're
misunderstood.
Well, there was a bad attack in the Red Sea off of Egypt.
Uh-huh.
But that's if you get attacked by a shark, you messed up.
Yeah.
If they're slaughtering camels and throwing the chum in the water, the sharks are going to be there to eat. Don't swim in that water.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, they throw the entrails in. And don't swim in chum. Don't swim when it's murky.
Yeah.
Stay away from bulls.
Okay, I will write that in my journal later. Do not swim in chummy, murky water. In SEAL training, you had to swim against the current in water temperature, dangerously close to the hard limit of what the human's body can withstand. Serious question. Did another prospective SEAL really pee on your hands given how cold it was? I mean, come on.
That was during Hell Week. And Hell Week starts on Sunday and you don't sleep until Friday. So you wake up and then you're just doing SEAL training around the clock. And that's where you learn short-term goals will get you to long-term goals. Like your long-term goal is not making it to Friday; it's making it to breakfast. And then like long-term would be Wednesday when the sun comes up. But what they would do is, when I went through anyway, you would get checked medically at least once a day, maybe twice a day, because you're in the elements you're not sleeping.
Right.
But you're wet and sandy and miserable the whole time.
Right.
But as soon as you go into medical, they clean you off with cold water, they check you out, then you can get dressed finally in some dry stuff. But as soon as you're dry, you're right back in the water.
Right.
So I was tying
and they make it that way.
Well, yeah, it's on purpose. But I was trying to tie my boots on a Wednesday or Thursday, and I couldn't tie it. And I look at a buddy, and I didn't really know him, and I said, Barker, can you pee on my hands? And I meant to warm them up. And he was freezing too, and he looked at me and goes, well, I mean, if you're into that, I guess. And I'm like, no. I was like, it's funny. You're making, you got jokes. You got jokes on Thursday.
He took it like in a sexual way.
He was messing with me. It was just funny.
Right.
But that's what you realize too, that sometimes the darkest times.
But then you didn't actually, I don't think, specified whether he really did it or not.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Wow. That's
well, like we said at the beginning, it takes a village.
Wow. And then I guess you guys are forever bonded now.
You do have a bond, yeah.
At this point, after peeing outside, I would think so.
Yeah.
During SEAL training, your buddy Monty had a king-size Snicker bar fastened to the end of a big-ass knife, as you say, on his cargo belt. Pardon my language, but you wrote in your book, dude, if they see that, we're both fucked.
Oh, yeah.
And you go on to say, was I really going to risk it all getting ripped from the Navy training over 2,000 calories of chocolatey, peanutty goodness? You go, why, yes. Yes, I was. Were you really willing to give it all up for a Snickers bar?
Because that was a swim that you do once in training. It's 5.5 nautical miles, so that's 7.1 miles.
Gosh.
But we had to swim in against the current,
right?
So we're in there for 5+ hours to the point where we're getting hypothermia, and they pulled us. And then the following Monday. So that was a Thursday or Friday. The following Monday, we had to redo it. And I remember how hungry and thirsty, because you're swimming 5 hours, nothing to drink, nothing to eat.
Right.
But you have to wear certain items. One is a belt, and then you have a knife, and on the knife you have taped a flare. But instead of a flare, he taped a Snickers bar. And if we get caught with that, because he'd get in trouble for having a Snickers bar, I'd get in trouble for not catching it, and then we both get kicked out for lying.
Right.
But if we make it past, they don't notice we have a Snickers bar.
Were you successful with the Snickers bar?
We ate it halfway through. It was awesome.
You ate it halfway through
Delicious.
in the salt water?
Yes.
Snickers in salt water.
We were probably a mile off the damn beach, and we're out there eating a Snickers.
Wow. I can't get that image out of my mind.
That was wonderful.
It's true what they say, that the Navy SEAL team process is as much mental as it is physical. I have to ask this and I'm sure my viewers and listeners would be curious to know and to hear from you. What is it that separates a Navy SEAL from like a common, resilient, strong person? Because why is it that even some strong, smart, and mentally tough men still fail?
Well, everybody fails.
Yeah.
And again, like I was saying earlier, that's how you learn. You don't. I never knocked something out of the park first try, and I guarantee most CEOs didn't say, "Well, that was easy."
Right.
It takes failure to do that. But what they instill in us is, we call it a swim buddy. And you'll get punished for going anywhere without someone with you. You're always bringing a friend with a swim buddy, a teammate with you. And I think what makes people successful is we're gonna do it better together. Right. And it's the whole Henry Ford thing. If we move forward together, success takes care of itself. And that's the entire team. And as long as you don't care who takes credit, we can pretty much accomplish anything.
You've traveled the world on over 400 combat missions for this country. One particular mission brought you to the Indian Ocean to rescue a famed United States cargo ship captain, Captain Phillips. Captain Phillips' mission was once again immortalized by Tom Hanks, portraying the U.S. cargo ship captain that was hijacked by pirates off the Somali coast. Why was that mission such a complex one? Because
we were in Virginia, and SEAL Team 6, the counterterror team that I was a part of, was designed to rescue American hostages at sea. It was commissioned in 1980, but it had never been done. Not once. And this is 2009. So 29 years, never been done. Is that 29 years? Something like that.
It had never been done.
Never been done. But we had thought in that time, we thought of everything. So cruise liners, yachts, nuclear ships, military vessels, anything we thought of. No one had ever thought of. In Captain Phillips, a safety boat was being towed by a Navy destroyer. And no one had thought of that. The reason it was complex is because, for example, it was my birthday. It was Good Friday, April 10th.
Oh, wow.
And I was at one of my daughter's Easter tea parties at her preschool in Virginia Beach. And she's 4, and I'm getting her smiley face cookies, putting them on a pink plate, and I got a message that, Captain Phillips, your team is going now. So you put
you're at a tea party.
Tea party.
Wow.
Give her a kiss, turn around and go to war. From a preschool classroom on a long weekend in Virginia Beach on my birthday. From the time I got the message, 15 hours and 46 minutes later, we had over 100 Navy SEALs in the Indian Ocean. Full head count. And the reason it was so complex is you got to figure we need planes to come from a certain spot. We need someone to tow the boats that we'd packed, and the parachutes better have been rigged by the parachute riggers. All the bullets and all the stuff's there. Everything we need to wear is in the boats. They're going to open. The planes get here. We load them up. Everything from the parachutes, everyone's going to jump in. Better be packed with the reserves. Whew. And a flight over. And now on the flight over, what are we going to do when we get there? Because we didn't jump in there to kill those guys. We got to get the hostage. Everyone think of a plan. And so we're just planning the whole thing. And any single fail moment could have ended it. But it just worked. And then when we got there, as we're preparing for the rescue, we put snipers on if you're not familiar with it, they took shots and killed the pirates.
Right.
The mission was not to kill them. Their mission was to watch them, make sure nothing unsafe happens as we prepare to rescue, as we're preparing something unsafe happens. And they shot.
Right.
And here's the preparation part of it. Put yourself in these snipers. These 3 snipers were in their own beds in Virginia Beach, single dudes on a long weekend of Friday. Their guns we'd never done this. It's since 1980. My guns don't need to be sighted in for the most difficult shot of my life, but it was. And instead of drinking beer all week, now they're in the Indian Ocean. They took three no fail shots, and they all hit. And that was awesome. I was, just for the record too, I was drinking coffee when they rescued him because I had the best plan. So I was having coffee and I got a text that said, "We got him." And I said, "Got who?" And they said, "We got him." It's like, oh shit. Good job, guys.
I wish they had included that in the movie. Like, I would have loved to have seen, first of all, I don't even know why they just don't cast you to play yourself, but also, I would love to see Rob ONeill at a tea party and then all of a sudden getting the alert. They should have included that in the movie. 100%.
I'm pretty sure she was in some sort of a princess dress too. And the coolest thing about it though, what the movie did really well is as soon as the snipers shoot, you'll see them they don't say a word. They fold up their bipods and they walk away very quietly. What happened, and I'm actually getting goosebumps now. So one of the snipers, he was actually in my wedding. This is before the bin Laden raid. And I said to him, "You realize the gravity, you just did the most important thing in the history of the U.S. Navy SEAL teams." His response was, "Cool, can we go home?" That's how awesome these dudes are.
Superhuman.
Yeah.
We obviously know why the bin Laden raid has become so famous. I am curious though, in all 400 combat missions you've been a part of, what made this particular mission with Captain Phillips Hollywood worthy?
Just the rapid deployment and success of the shots that looked like we had it planned, but not knowing that wasn't the plan. And again, when I was saying, the only time the perfect plan exists is when you're planning.
Right.
And once you leave, it's a contingency. The preparation will get you through. The plan's never going to happen.
Right.
And I mean, it's just thinking about it now. What if they missed? The reason they took the shots was because the pirates were doing mock executions. So they got a gun and they're, what if they missed? Right. And then he kills Captain Phillips. Then the legacy of SEAL teams.
Right.
But they didn't. They hit.
Wow. Is it really true that Captain Phillips just wanted some beers after being saved from Somalia?
He wanted a few beers, and I think the admiral said we can do that. And it was a woman. The admiral was a woman.
That's unbelievable. You just got saved from Somali pirates, and all you want is just a couple.
And he had that New England accent. I'd like a couple beers, kid.
Wow, that's unbelievable. Whew, man, I had to ask about Captain Phillips. Obviously, great film. Have you ever met Tom Hanks?
I've not met Tom Hanks. I met Captain Phillips, but not Tom Hanks.
Okay,
but I think that Tom Hanks, the way he acted at the end when he was in medical, and I think that woman was also the actual corpsman who was helping Captain Phillips. I think he just won too many Academy Awards. That was worthy, I think. That movie was awesome. Great.
It was.
Well, and that's one of my favorite bullshit lines when they say, "Well, as far as accuracy, how was Captain Phillips?" And I'll say, "Well, depends on who's asking, because right now, 40% accurate. But if we're at happy hour, 100%. I took all 3 shots."
Your answers change depending on the time of day
on where we're
at the bar. I get it. I respect it. All right. In 2011. You received a briefing what I am about to tell you cannot leave this room. When you heard those words, what were your initial thoughts? You know, in your book, you said you predicted that the target was Osama bin Laden before they even told you. What gave you that impression with so little intel?
They recalled a group of guys that were in the right place at the right time with the right amount of seniority. So that itself was, and they weren't telling other guys. So that itself was something. And they were trying to BS us with something else. Like they said, we found a thing. This thing is in a house, and this house is in a bowl in between these mountains. And you guys are going to go in there and you're going to get this thing and bring it back to us. And we're like, well, what's the thing? Well, we can't tell you. Okay. Okay. Which countries? Can't tell you. Well, what is the bowl? Can't tell you. How are we getting there? Can't tell you. How much air support? None. Like, okay, that's one answer. No air support.
Right.
So we assumed it would be Libya, something like that.
Okay.
But when they started, because they were trying not to tell us, towards the end, they said a certain group of people will be there at the brief when we read you in on Sunday. And that just made sense. Wait a minute. If this branch of this agency will be there, this isn't Libya. This is bin Laden.
How soon before the raid occurred were you told that this was the target?
Weeks.
3 weeks. Mm-hmm. So you had 3 weeks.
But the response was cool too, because I've seen reenactions where they say bin Laden and everyone's high-fiving. Yay, we get a shot at bin Laden. That's not what happened. The woman that found bin Laden was with the commanding officer of SEAL Team 6, and he said, the reason you're here is this is as close as we've ever been to Osama bin Laden. And looking around the room, everyone's response was, cool, we going now?
Yeah, right.
Because this is what we do, I guess.
Right. Wow. You know, the infamous raid on Osama bin Laden's compound in May of 2011 obviously is not a secret anymore. It has been forever etched in the history books, also in your book, The Operator, and also depicted in the Academy Award-winning film Zero Dark 30. I have heard you share in previous interviews that you and the rest of SEAL Team 6 went into that mission expecting to die. I have heard you also share that, you know, you didn't do it for the fame. You said you did it for the single mom who had to drop her kid off at school and 45 minutes later was jumping out of a skyscraper building because that was a far better alternative than burning alive on 9/11. What was said amongst the team privately before you left base? I sort of think of like dead silence given the magnitude of the mission.
Yeah, it was this group of guys. We'd done missions together a lot, and more dangerous missions, frankly. And it's the standard. You know, you get the brief, you go stand around the fire, have a cigar or a dip or whatever, and then you get on the thing and shake hands. See you guys in a couple hours when we get back. This one was just different because the variables. We're going into Pakistan. It's not a third world country. We're flying helicopters that have never been flown, especially by these four pilots who they are the best in the world, so we trust them. But we're going to get shot down. We don't know if this technology works. There's going to be a gunfight when we get there. The house will blow up. We're going to run out of fuel, and we're going to end up dying in Pakistan, all that stuff.
And you just accepted that.
We accepted it because we did talk about if we know we're going to die, why are we going? And we talked about the single mom. One that got me, too, is someone said, we're going for the first Americans to fight al-Qaeda toe-to-toe to the death. And those are the passengers on United 93. And they were not supposed to be in the fight. We are. And we were given the opportunity. If you don't want to go, you don't have to go. But then it was almost like a Braveheart thing. Like if I don't, which I could easily not gone. And if they all die, I live. But in the Braveheart thing, it's like if you can go to your deathbed and trade every day from now until then for one shot, would you do it? And that's why we're here.
Wow.
So instead of like handshakes, we just hugged each other like, all right, see you on the ground. Have a good fight.
And you wrote letters.
I did. I wrote letters to my daughters. I wrote letters to my father. Every family member got a letter that I hand wrote.
That must have been really difficult.
That was tough.
Yeah. And I'm assuming you ripped up the letters when you got back?
I wish I didn't, but I shredded them as soon as I got back. I should have kept them.
Why do you wish you kept them?
Well, I wanted my kids to know what I was thinking because a lot of stuff in there that it's one of those, well, I might as well tell you now type things. Right. But now it's like, well, I'm still going to tell you.
Right.
But I wish I would have held on to these.
Yeah. Well, it's really heavy nonetheless. And just so admirable that you did that. You know, I heard in a previous interview that you listened to Red Nation by The Game.
Yes.
This was pre-Bin Laden raid. I was not expecting old school rap from you, Rob ONeill.
Yeah.
Give me like top 3, 4 songs that would be part of like the Navy SEAL playlist pre-Bin Laden raid.
Well, we listen pre-Bin Laden. Well, got to give the game a shout out, Gang Lil Wayne, because the lyrics are like killed Satan. There's blood in the air, leave blood. Blood in the air, leave blood on the ground.
Okay,
we're Red Nation, and we were Red Squadron.
Okay,
so that was one. But I was a bit, anything heavy metal, obviously Metallica, but like Avenged Sevenfold, Unholy Confessions, anything by the Demon Hunter.
Okay,
the Demon Hunter's cool because I actually have a patch from the band, the Demon Hunter, because it's the devil horns, and and they're a Christian rock band, but they sound just awesome,
right?
And the Demon Hunter, that's just cool. So
and you're basically killing Satan.
Yeah, that's seriously. Yeah. Well, and I was a battlefield interrogator on target, meaning as soon as the house is clear, whatever terrorists are alive, I'm the guy questioning them.
Right.
And the way I would do it is I would set up the interpreter behind him here, and then me here. And if he didn't look at me, he would look down and just see the devil.
Right.
And it's one of those things like, well, I know you've seen Americans before, but did they look like me?
Yeah.
I'm not here on accident.
Right.
I'm here for you.
Right.
So yeah, anything like that.
Okay. Metallica, you mentioned Avenged Sevenfold. That's wow. But like The Game by...
You can find anything though. You'd be surprised with anything that's serious. We talked about you've interviewed Grammy Award-winning artists. Anything that someone serious and talented wrote that's really good. So it could be hip hop, country, heavy metal. You're gonna win with heavy metal.
Yeah.
But
Sean Paul we've had on the show, but I don't for some reason I can't picture a bunch of Navy SEAls to like Sean Paul out there. I don't know, but maybe
we might like him on the Key West dive.
That makes
a time and a
that
place.
would make more sense. I think in the movie Zero Dark 30. I am curious. How much of it is historically accurate? Because there's a particular scene where they depict you guys on a Black Hawk and you're on your way to carry out the raid. And one guy goes, "What are you listening to?" And he goes, Tony Robbins. He goes, "I got big plans for after this. You guys should talk to me." Was that really true?
No, that was sort of a dig because I was a public speaker when that movie came out. And so Tony Robbins is obviously the best public speaker on the planet.
Okay.
And so that was I think that was Chris Pratt that was doing that. Pratt.
Okay. Interesting.
That was accurate, sort of. And the movie's really good. Because the movie's about the woman that found Bin Laden.
But you didn't say that. Like,
no,
were you really
what actually
listening to Tony
happened
Robbins?
was, no, I wasn't listening to anything. I was counting. I had a trifold hunting chair, and I was sitting next to Cairo, who's the dog.
Right.
And there's a book written about Cairo called No Ordinary Dog. It's awesome. His handler Cheese is behind me, and then I was counting because I became a sniper, and what I learned as a sniper, when you're watching something for days, just count. Keep your mind working. You don't get caught up in the bullshit. Just count. And so I would count from 0 to 1,000, 1,000 to 0. Like that. But as we banked to the south of Bin Laden's house, I kind of looked over and one of my friends was asleep, right? He had his headphones on.
Me?
He's asleep. And I'm looking at him and I kid you not, my thought process went, you are asleep on the ride to Osama bin Laden's house. You have ice in your veins and I see why women find you attractive.
I get it. No, you guys are just built differently. But yeah, that kind of annoys me now that was sort of a subtle dig at you because I genuinely thought someone was sitting there listening to Tony Robbins.
No, but they should have. He's not a bad guy to listen to. He'll get you.
Yeah, he'll get you riled up.
I'm convinced he reads minds.
Convinced he reads minds?
Yes, he's just so good. He can really read a person.
Yeah, I mean, he sells out arenas, this guy. His producers actually don't live far from me in Jupiter. There's a famous quote, and you've mentioned it at the start of this interview, that God laughs when we make plans. You had the perfect plan for the Bin Laden raid, and none of it came to fruition. What went wrong?
So when we were planning the mission, we came up with the perfect plan and we had some of the best tactical minds in the world. We came up with the perfect plan and then we started to work contingencies in case these vehicles leave, in case someone comes out here, in case. Right. And we trained on the perfect plan 13, 14 hours a day in helicopters, out of helicopters, talking about it. One night, one of the bosses said, what's the worst thing that could happen? And the youngest guy in the room said the helicopter could crash in the front yard. And we're like, what the fuck? Why would you say that?
Right.
And
that's exactly what.
And he goes, I don't know, maybe we should talk about that for 30 seconds. And that's exactly what happened. And it happened because the updraft off the fence, we were training on chain link. They had some sort of mud walls. It was a little bit warmer, so the helo didn't get the lift. And the pilot said that when he felt that effect, he knew that if he could pin the tail of the helicopter on the mud wall and stick the nose in the dirt, we might live. If he powers it up, we're all going to die. And I was in the other one. But he made that decision in the blink of an eye. That's why pilots are the coolest people in the world.
Yeah.
But he pinned it and they lived. We were outside. I didn't even know they crashed till I got in the house.
This is the one that they ended up blowing up.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That's unbelievable. You know, one of the things that struck me most about the bin Laden raid was that no one, with the exception of that one female CIA analyst portrayed by Jessica Chastain, was 100% certain that bin Laden was in fact inside of that compound. But you all took a major risk. I mean, like, you took a gamble while carrying out this mission.
We believed her.
Yeah.
The analysts at the agency and other intelligence places didn't necessarily, because they hate to deal in certainties.
Was it because she's a woman?
It was actually a team of women, but she was the one that stood out.
Okay.
And they re-energized my faith in the agency, because I've been working with the agency a lot, and and there's great people everywhere, there's bad people everywhere. But I remember one of my go-to sayings was, the problem with the CIA is that they watch too many movies about the CIA. And because I expected these superhuman smart people, which they are.
Right.
But then we met the bin Laden team. It's like, okay, there is a team there.
Right.
And that was it. But the way she told us to a point where, enough. I just believe you. I don't need to know how the sausage was made.
Right.
And the way that President Obama said, I was never convinced he was there, but I was convinced you could go find out and come back. But somebody had made a 2-scale model of his house down to the tree, and we would talk about blah, blah, blah. And after every night of training, she would say, okay, Osama bin Laden is on the 3rd floor of this building right now. I don't know why we're not leaving. Sleep well. Same every fucking time. And that's when they show in the movie, like, her writing the days. But she was just doing, and I'm sure she did that. But at the end, so we just got our brief from McCraven. I had my gear on. I'm walking out, and she was pacing outside. And because she went to Afghanistan with us. And I saw her, and I said, hey, why are you nervous? And she looked at me and goes, why aren't you nervous? And I said, because I do this every night. Oh. I get on helicopters, I fly somewhere, we fuck with people, I come back.
Right.
And then I look at her and I go, of course, on this one, you need to be right. So you should probably keep pacing. I'll see you in a couple hours.
Right. Whew, wow.
She was awesome. That movie, they made her look, she was that awesome.
Yeah, she was fantastic.
She's a real person. She acts like
I believe her name is Maya.
Maya.
You know, there's a section in your book where you reference the women jumping out in front of the men, essentially martyring themselves. And you thought in that moment, yeah, this is definitely the place.
Someone big is here, yeah.
Walk us through the few minutes of bin Laden's life and some of the thoughts and feelings running through your head at that pivotal moment.
When my team's job, we were in the 2nd helicopter. My team's job, as the first team was going to fly in front of the house and fast rope. That's when a helicopter stops. They throw ropes out. You slide down fast rope. My team was going to drop 5 or 6 guys outside of because the whole place is surrounded by a big 15-foot mud wall, maybe taller. Drop some guys off. My team's going to go to the rooftop of bin Laden's house. We're going to fast rope down, jump onto his balcony, and we're going to hit him from the team down here, team up here. That's the perfect plan. As soon as our helicopter pilot saw them crash, he went right back down. And he's telling us, get out.
Right.
So we just get out. And I remember I put my right foot down. I'm looking over the fence at bin Laden's house thinking, I guess we started from here. I know off to my left, which is the northeast corner, there's a double door in the mud wall. We can blow that up. So we bring the team over. The breacher went up there, and he put on a size of a 7-foot charge of C6, which is awesome. That'll open anything. He rolled that. It looks like a big fruit roll-up. You just roll it down, it sticks, you blast it. It blew up. And but there was a brick wall behind it. So the door opened, but now it's and he goes, fail breach. This is bad. And I said, no, this is good, because that's a fake door. And nobody does that. He's in there. So then I know damn well there's a double door on this part where the cars did come in and out. And I didn't know they crashed. Right. So I said, hey, so-and-so, because what I heard him saying was they were dash 1, we were dash 2. Dash 1 going around, dash 1 going around. What they were saying was dash 1 going down. So I said, I'm going to blow this thing. They said, don't blow it. We'll open it. It opened. A thumb came out. And I recognized the glove. And I'm at that point in life where it doesn't matter. Like when I talk to football teams, the offense, I'll say, it doesn't matter why it's 2nd and 15. It just is. Stop bickering. What are we going to do now? The clock is ticking.
What's the goal?
So this one is like, I don't know how they got in there. It doesn't fucking matter. They're in there. So we go in. There's a gunfight going on. I get into there's a long hallway, 1st floor of bin Laden's house. And I got into a room so I can watch guys work. So I'm in the back. And I'm watching dudes just proud. Like I'm looking for bombs. We could blow up at any time, but these guys they're not phased. Right. They're just slow as smooth as fast. As I'm like, thinking about how awesome my guys are, the guy next to me who was in the helicopter that crashed said, the helicopter crashed. And I go, oh my God, what helicopter crashed? And he goes, bro, our helicopter crashed. Like, you might have walked right past it. I'm like, okay. So now it's registering. That's why they're here.
Did you start to panic in that moment?
No, there's no reason to panic.
Okay.
Panic's contagious.
Okay.
So don't panic.
All right.
Calm down. Calm's contagious too. Try that. Even when you're panicking, calm down. Everyone will be calm.
Okay.
But as it's registering, this the sniper from my helicopter and the handler, they had Cairo, the dog, and his job was to run around the whole place twice, make sure no one escapes. So he didn't know that they crashed either, but he saw the tail now because he's on this end and he's right underneath it. He came over the radio and said, all right, guys inside, be on alert. They're definitely ready for us. They have a training mock-up of our super secret helicopter in the front yard, like a training thing. And the boss comes over and goes, no, jackass, that's ours because we crashed. And
oh my God. They thought it was a mock-up.
Yeah, and then the sniper goes,
oh, man.
Then you hear the sniper go, yeah, that makes a lot more sense than the shit I was just saying. So these are, the comedy sort of comes out in the darkest places. And he's like, yeah, carry on.
Wow. What?
Like,
I wish they had included that in the movie.
The movie would have been way better.
Oh, man.
But then, so we get in there and what the woman said that found, and she ended up being 100% right on 100% of the people. Right. She said, I don't know. Even at the beginning when we're like, okay, when you come in the house, there's going to be, I'm like, I don't want to know which way. Do you tell me what you know? Mm-hmm. I'll get there and figure. Don't tell me how many men, women, and children. Tell me how many people. I'll figure out who they are when I get there. Right. So she said, I don't know what it looks like in the house, but when you get in there, there will be a stairwell going up to the second floor. Right. You will run into Khalid bin Laden. And that's his 19 or 20-year-old son. He'll be armed. That's his last line of defense. Mm. And she said it, and here's how cool she was. She goes, if you can ace him, you'll get a shot at the big guy. And she used big guy before big guy was cool.
Yeah.
And so we got there, and I'm 8 guys back going up the stairwell, and I saw them, and I should have grabbed a few guys and backed off because fighting in an urban environment going up, you want to, the least amount of guys the better because they can throw shit. But we're going to die anyway. I got to see how this goes down because I'm looking at 2 grown men who want to kill each other, both armed, separated by 10 inches and a banister. And the guy in front just kind of whispered to him, Khalid, Delta Rush, something like that, where he said, come here, confused him. And he looked over and he blasted him. I'm like, well, that was awesome. That's the coolest thing I've ever seen. Right. And I was right for about 7 more seconds because we step over him. We get to the second floor. Everyone except for the guy in front of me peels off to the left and right because you want to clear everything before you move. But now the guy in front of me, I think he'd taken a shot. When I got there, he's looking up the last set of stairs. There's a curtain instead of a door. And I turned from the 8th man to the 2-man. And the way that it works is the 1 man points forward, and he always goes with his gun. The 2-man's job is to have positive control, but he's looking back. So when I have, as the 2-man, have enough guys, I will squeeze you. Effective communication, we have enough. But we're out of guys now. There's 2 of us, and he knows something's going on. Okay. And so he starts saying, hey, we got to go. We got to come on. We got to get up these stairs. And he said something that like what I heard, and this could be wrong, this is my story, is he said, he didn't know it was me, but he knows it's one of his guys. He said something like, hey man, these bitches is getting truculent. And I remember. Can
I get that on a t-shirt?
I remember, we should make that. But I remember whispering, like, cause I'm going to die now and we're going to blow up. And I remember whispering my last joke. I whispered in his ear, I don't think that word means what you think. And then it was like, okay, serious, go. And he went up and again, for me, it wasn't bravery. It was, I'm tired of thinking about it. He's going to blow up. So he moved this curtain and it turned out to be.
When you say he was going to blow up, you're talking about
suicide bombers.
Bombs, okay.
Because we saw them moving. Right. Someone's putting on vests. The house is going to go. Yeah. I don't want to think about it.
And you just accepted
And so he turned, and because he went forward and he tackled people that he thought were going to blow up, which is amazing, because he jumped on a grenade that didn't go off. Oh. And because he went this way, that's our tactics. He went this way, I went that way. Here's Osama bin Laden standing there.
Hero.
6'5". And his wife, Amal, was in front of him. So his wife's here. He's there. Easy shot. He's 2 feet away. I recognized his nose. My thought was he's taller, skinnier, white beard, weird. That's his nose. He's a threat. He's not surrendering. So I shot him twice, moved him all, shot him again. And then I moved her out of the way. And it doesn't matter which target you're on. There's humanity in combat that people don't fully appreciate. Like when you're watching this footage in Ukraine of drones blowing up, people cheering, you don't know that's a person. Yeah. So no kidding. I shot bin Laden 3 times, move them all. I looked down, his 2-year-old son, right, standing there. And as a father, my thoughts were, this kid has nothing to do with this. So I pick him up because I don't want, other SEALs are going to be coming in. I'm going to get them out of the way. I turn around. We're going to get shit ready for pictures and whatnot. But I'm standing there and other Navy SEALs are here now. And a buddy looks at me and he goes, you good? And I said, no, what do we do now? And he smiled and he patted me on the back and he goes, now we find the computers. We do this every night. Come on. And I go, yeah, you're right. I'm back. Holy shit. And his quote was, Yeah, you just killed Osama bin Laden. Your life just changed. Get to fucking work.
Wow.
Crazy.
Chills.
Yeah, and then we started to realize we might live through this. So we did take the picture, and if they ever release the pictures, which I wish they would, those are my gloves holding his head together in the picture, and then we just started finding the intelligence.
You know, why? I am curious, why did you shoot him in the head as opposed to anywhere else? Were you at all worried about intelligence being able to properly identify him?
Suicide bomber.
Okay.
Whoever said you don't have facial recognition has never dealt with a suicide bomber. I have. Oh. And a suicide bomber is a lot different in person. The way I would describe it is extremely fast, loud, and permanent. Yeah. And all they need to do, what they will do is like my watch and my bracelets, is connect a negative and a positive. Yeah. And all they got to do is this. So if they put their hands up, boom. So if you don't show me that you're surrendering, the fastest way to get you down is right here.
Right
so I hit him three times. And we'll figure out it's him by DNA.
Yeah.
His face was... one of the reasons they don't show the pictures is a lot of times when justice is served, you don't need to see what it looks like. It's pretty bad.
Did he hold his wife in front of him?
I don't know what he was doing with her. He had his hands on her shoulders.
Okay. Almost as like a shield?
I don't know. In her book that she wrote, which is weird for me to read, it's her version of what happened of what I did from her version.
I wasn't even aware she wrote.
Yeah, she wrote. It's a book or an article, and she said what he said to her. I didn't know this at the time. Was they're not here for you, they're here for me, something like that. But her story's, it matches my story, which is crazy.
Yeah. Well, I guess you guys are telling the truth. I mean, it's historically accurate.
Well, even I think bin Laden's sister was interviewed one time, and she just wants to be normal. And she said, "What's the deal with bin Laden?" And she said something like, "Look, take 10 members of any family, you're going to have an asshole."
I get that. I get that.
We all do.
Yep. You know, the call confirming Osama bin Laden's death has been widely discussed. Is it true that you or a member of your team said "for God and country" after he was killed?
Yes, I was a ground force commander that said "for God and country, Geronimo, Geronimo, Geronimo." And the reason we said Geronimo, that's not that we didn't name him Geronimo. That's disrespect to the Native American chief warrior, Chief Geronimo.
Okay.
It was out of honor for the Native American warrior, Geronimo. It's called a pro word. So instead of saying, hey, I found bin Laden, he might be dead, you say Geronimo. That means I'm at bin Laden. If I say Geronimo, EKIA, it means Geronimo, enemy killed in action.
So it was almost like a code name.
No, his code name was Cake Bread.
Cake Bread?
Cake Bread, like the wine.
Why cake?
I didn't name him. I don't know. Probably one of the women that found him liked the wine or something.
Cake bread.
Or maybe one of the guys.
That's
Geronimo
interesting.
was a pro word, meaning here I am.
Okay.
But people try to get up in arms. You named him Geronimo. No, we didn't. We would not disrespect Geronimo like that.
Yeah. No, okay. Very interesting.
Pretty neat, isn't it?
Really neat to get this inside
I should have helped with the movie. It would have been way better.
They should have cast you instead of Chris Pratt. No offense, Chris Pratt.
I do love Chris Pratt, though.
I do like him, too. And Chris Pratt, you are welcome on the Reinvented podcast, my friend, at any time. Another great American. You know, I want to know, when you called your parents to share with them the news that you had killed the #1 most wanted terrorist in the world, Osama bin Laden, I am curious, what was their reaction? Or were you allowed to tell them, or did they find out when the rest of the world did?
I wasn't allowed to say anything. And the first time we made calls was back in Virginia. So when we killed bin Laden, we flew him back to Jalalabad, Afghanistan, up to Bagram Airfield, found the Seabees because they have showers, pizza, and whiskey. And then we got on a plane. And
the three essentials.
And not in that order. And then we flew back and then to Virginia Beach. But my dad and mom are funny because my dad's the type of guy that, and if anything happens, he's convinced I was there. And it's always been like that. Like when I joined the Navy to be a SEAL, he pulled out, there was I think it was a Life magazine, and it had a picture of students tied up in the pool. And he goes, I know that's you because those are your calves. And I'm like, Dad, I literally haven't left for the Navy yet. That's not me. So he always was convinced. And they knew I was on the mountain for the Lone Survivor. They knew I was the lead jumper for Marcus Luttrell.
Yeah.
But what I've been telling my mother the whole time, I would lie to my mom. Even in Iraq, I'd say, Dad, Mom, don't worry, but we're not doing anything.
You would like downplay the severity.
Yeah, we're not doing anything, nothing. We're not doing it. I would say, even, I think before the Navy, I would joke with her and say, Mom, don't worry about me because I'm here to do something special.
Yeah.
And you'll know. And I would say, Mom, it was fine. We're here to do something special. We got back to Virginia Beach. I called my mom and I said, hey, Mom, you can start worrying now because that special thing, I'm pretty sure I just did it.
Wow.
And that's how she knew that it happened, so she was proud.
But you told her, I shot Osama bin Laden.
Well, I mean, I didn't tell her over the phone.
You didn't tell her over the phone.
And I was never going to tell anyone, hey, look at me, I did it, because I didn't do it.
Right.
The team did it.
Of course.
The air crew guy that made sure the plane was flying and the doors would open did it.
Yeah.
I was smart enough to carry a sledgehammer and a gun and follow a brave guy in front of me. But, the issue is, this is actually a funny story until it gets tragic. But the first question, including in the house, there were 3 stories in the house. The first question any Navy SEAL asked when they found out bin Laden was dead was, who got him? Who got him?
Right.
So my name instantly
You mentioned that in your book.
But it was funny because my nickname was Nizro, N-S-R-O, Navy SEAL Rob ONeill. And it's pronounced Nizro. So people say, hey, what up, Nizro? Like
okay.
that.
All right.
But I guess I'm known for telling stories. I tell good jokes. And I tell my daughters, always know a good joke because if you're in a weird spot, tell a funny, clean joke.
Right.
So I was known for telling stories and being animated. And I guess it was common even in the house. They said, who got him? And they go, Nizro. And they go, fuck, we're never going to hear the end of this.
Nizro.
No.
That's so funny. Wait, okay, so can you tell us a dad joke? You said always know a good joke.
Why do seagulls fly over the sea?
Why?
Because if they flew over the bay, they'd be bagels.
Bagels?
Bagels, like a bagel.
Oh, yeah.
Like
Okay.
like a bagel.
That was good.
Like a bagel.
I'd give it like a...
It's a
give it
dad joke.
6. I'd give it a 6. I've heard better.
Bagel's funny.
I'd give it a 6.
Okay.
All right. So, look. So, thank you, by the way, for taking us through that. I feel like I just relived the entire... And everything that I saw in the movie, hearing it from your firsthand perspective is just so fascinating. When you look back at this mission and its execution and even in the aftermath, do you have any regrets or is there anything that you might have done differently?
Yes, I have a regret. So after the bin Laden raid, May 1st, 2nd, by the way, both.
My birthday.
Yes,
My birthday's
that's why I threw that in there for you. We were on the highest. I'm a big morale guy. And if morale is high, if people want to be there, they'll work harder. So we're at the highest point of morale at SEAL Team 6. Then in August of 2011, on August 6th, we lost a helicopter. So 30 guys died, one of our dogs. So 31 Americans died in one shot. And we went from planning missions to planning funerals, and morale just took a complete dump. And so one of my regrets is one of my really good friends, Robert James Reeves. I'm Robert James ONeill and Robert James Reeves. Even to the point his fiance would always see me and would say, hey, how's my number 2 Rob or whatever.
RJ, Robert J.
And then when he died, he said, how's my only Rob? It's like, fuck. But I went to Rob's house before he died, right before he went to Afghanistan, and we're bullshitting about the bin Laden raid, his big thing, and he's kind of giving me good advice on how to handle all this bullshit. And he poured a glass of wine and asked me if I wanted one, and I said no. I don't know why. And he died a few weeks later, and my one regret is I wish I would have that glass of wine with him.
Wow. Have that one last glass of wine.
Mm-hmm.
Light that candle.
Seriously.
Take that risk.
What I tell people, one of my sayings is take the shot. And that came from something like that. You never know if you're going to get it again. Someone asked me if you could give one sentence of advice to 15-year-old Rob ONeill, what would it be? Simple. Ask her out.
Ask her out.
Ask her out.
That's so
Take
cute.
the shot.
I love that.
So in life, take the shot.
And you owe your career to a girl, as you say. The first words in your book. I love it. It really does come full circle. You know, in your book, you black out a lot of SEAL Team specifics, rightfully so. We hear that SEAL Team 6 is a secret. Do you feel that you broke any code by going public with its inner workings in so much detail?
No, I don't think there's anything wrong with people telling their stories. I do recommend you get it approved by the government, and that's all you need to do.
Right.
That's it. There is classified stuff that I've seen, and it's so complex, it's boring to me because I don't understand it. Okay, guess what? SEAL Team 6 is real. So what?
Right.
They had to blurt something out.
Right.
No, the other stuff, because I've heard people say that, there's an ethos. No, there's not. Yeah. Someone wrote something. I've never signed anything like that. And the stuff I did sign, you wouldn't be interested in.
Right.
And that's why I submitted because my father did, again, him knowing I'm going to be somewhere, he said, always keep a journal. And I did. So I just submitted my journal after I went through it, and they approved it, and that's it.
Keeping a journal is a really important.
But I'm pretty happy that George Washington had a biographer when he crossed the Delaware on Christmas Eve to fight the Hessians in the Revolutionary War. Glad I know what happened.
There you go.
There wasn't a code then.
That's a great way to put it. Was the Department of Defense a little reviewing were they angry at all? Did you ruffle any feathers?
I don't know, because I think the way it works is you submit it to a certain office, and whomever is mentioned, they'll give a copy to that office. And then you get back the product. And when I got the product, they recommended changes, and I did. I'm sure someone's pissed, but you could give away. The way I describe a lot of Navy SEALs is I could take 3 random Navy SEALs, pick their houses, dump truck full of cash in each driveway. 2 of them would complain that their driveway's blocked. So someone's pissed.
Okay. That's fair. That's fair. Well, what is it? What is the saying? Isn't there a famous saying that if you can't, you obviously can't please everybody, but like, I forgot how the saying goes. I'm going to butcher this, but it's like you gotta, you're doing something right if
you're pissing people off.
When you're pissing people off.
Also, one of my favorite quotes is, "You'd stop worrying how much people think of you if you realized how little they actually do."
Yes, that is a great
If you're
one.
worried about what someone else thinks, don't take advice from someone who criticizes you.
Yeah, I'm still mastering that. We still read the comments sometimes.
Yeah.
But,
I take my own advice. Trust me. There's every day it's like I want to get in the bathtub and cry. Like, why would you say that?
Rob, you are quite a Renaissance man coming from Butte, Montana to combat missions all over the world. You have proven time and again that you can adapt and win under impossible circumstances. Can you discuss how you reinvented yourself from special warfare operator to civilian, dad, entrepreneur, philanthropist, and best-selling author? Because I have to say, not many people can make that transition as successfully as you did.
It's a tough one. The first reinvention is the transition from the military to the private sector, because a lot of military men and women don't realize they have something to offer. I didn't. But because I didn't have a college degree, but what I didn't realize is I'd learned how to communicate. I'd learned how to handle stress, how to plan and perform and be prepared. And the effective communication.
Which they don't teach you in college, by the way.
And effective communication.
Right.
Being able to communicate with people. And that comes with telling the truth, which can get you in trouble now. But I have those skills. And that's what actually made me start my foundation, Special Operators Transition Foundation, because these people have the skills, but not realizing what you're capable of. I know a lot of guys that would rather go back to war than fill out a resume, because war makes sense, but the resume doesn't. Oh. So that right there, the realization that just because someone doesn't look like you or they're from a different place doesn't mean you can't be equals. Right. You can do whatever you put your mind to. Right. And then the acceptance of failure is one thing. And I fail all the time. I've done everything from transitioning to the private sector just to recently handling PTSD. It takes about 7 years for something like that to and just because you haven't been in combat doesn't mean you haven't had stress. Right. So I've had run-ins with the law, alcohol problems. I've actually gone to therapy, psychedelics in Mexico just to get into why.
I've been meaning to try those psychedelics. I hear great things.
Great thing. If you do it the right way, they're great. And a lot of people don't understand with the psychedelics, because you'll hear Congress say, well, they're just club drugs. No, they're not. These are very far from it. You don't want to go to a club after taking some of these. They will help you.
Well, and it's to heal and process significant trauma in your life.
There's a drug called ibogaine that I think it's from the iboga tree or the hibiscus tree, something like that. It can cure addiction overnight. And I've taken ibogaine. It's amazing. The only reason it's not here in the United States because it's a cure and there's no money in the cure.
Yeah, of
you know
course.
how much money pharmaceuticals would lose if someone was just cured?
Oh, I believe there's cancer cures.
Oh, of course there is.
But it's a moneymaker. But I'm also a conspiracy theorist, so,
Start the clock. I'm ready.
You mentioned the severe PTSD struggles our heroes deal with when coming home from combat. We actually talk about these issues a lot in great detail here on the Reinvented podcast. We don't shy away from those topics, whether combat related, sexual assault related, addiction, as you mentioned. I think my viewers and listeners, and you did mention this, but they will be curious to know, because they look at you as like this superhuman. But you mentioned you've had run-ins with the law. And I have to say, I kind of like that about you, because I think it humanizes you. And I think it should. It will. And it makes it, and it's like, hey, I'm a regular dude, just like everyone else. I put my pants on the same way. And I have had run-ins with the law. Yeah.
And I need to start this off by saying every time I've been in handcuffs, I deserve it, because I love law enforcement. It's not like they're not trying to give me a break. It's again with falling down and getting up. What can you do about it? Yeah. And you don't need to have been in combat to have stress, to have a traumatic event. Most of us have. Yeah. And it's like I started the process of healing with post-traumatic stress because I found someone who also had it. I found a counselor who was a Vietnam vet. And so I'm willing to talk to him because maybe he gets it. But it takes a number of years for it to sink in. And for me, it wasn't the loud explosions or the bombs going off. It was the guy that I killed in his bedroom that I think about now. Like, why did I kill that guy? Well, he went for a gun. Why did he go for a gun? Because I'm in his house. Why am I in his house? Well, a politician decided we need to invade this country. Then I start thinking, did he know any jokes? What if I would have met him in France over coffee? Would we have laughed together? Instead, I just killed him. Yeah. And that's the thing. And again, with some of the healing and the psychedelics, I've actually had the psychedelics say, well, you didn't kill anyone wrong, so he was an asshole. Right. But you do think about it.
Your mind plays games on you. Like totally. You try to justify.
That's why I bring up the humanity of everywhere. In combat zones, the vast majority of people are just trying to get on with their lives.
Right.
And they have to put up with Al-Qaeda. They have to put up with the Americans. They have to put up with ISIS, the goddamn Iranians. And all I want to do is raise my kids just like everyone else. But I have to play the cards. So there's a lot more to war than just what you see on the news stations.
Thank you for sharing that. Mm-hmm. Thank you for sharing how you manage the darkness and, you know, the PTSD that you presently struggle with, because I do think that that's lost on people. You know, you mentioned you're the co-founder of the Special Operations Transition Foundation, specializing in assisting veterans with, you know, their next phase, their next great career in corporate America or wherever. I don't think it necessarily has to be corporate.
We've placed them everywhere from on the power lines, surface finishing, to managing hedge funds.
With so many charitable organizations available at your fingertips, especially you, Rob ONeill, why this particular mission? Why are you passionate about that?
Well, the transition part, but also it's not a let's get the guy out of his car and make sure he has a bowl of soup. It's let's make the economy better, because everyone that hires these men and women, and we do have women in there, I have yet to hear this isn't the best person I've ever hired. We mentioned some shit that's being taught in college is not applicable to anything. And some of these bosses say, I don't need that degree.
Right.
You give me one of your people, I'll teach them how to do this job in 6 months. And they do.
Yeah.
And the people are just good at it.
Yeah.
Because nowadays, you know, I can't take too many credits in college because it gets in the way of my activism. What?
Yeah. Yeah.
And this is from a non-college graduate.
Right. Well, that's interesting, though, to keep the economy moving. Do you have any dreams to run for office one day?
God, no. No, one of my first jobs was in DC.
You've seen too much.
I've been asked to do it. I've been asked by Mitch McConnell. You've been in the swamp. Mitch McConnell asked me to run for Senate in Montana. There's seats I've been in the swamp. I know what it's like. If I thought I could make a difference, I would, but it's a lot deeper than just politicians.
Yeah. That's why, there's another famous saying that's like, no one decent ever runs for Congress. It's all corrupt. Corrupt.
I mean, it's the person who leaves Congress a millionaire as opposed to going into Congress a millionaire. And it's not the person who's in the White House for 4 years that's a problem. It's the person who's been in Capitol Hill for 40 that's the problem.
Yeah, absolutely. Term limits.
Yeah, well, yeah. All we got to do is get people to vote on term limits. Who would that be? Oh, that's right. The people that need the term limits. They're never going to.
Okay, if Rob ONeill did run for office, what would your campaign slogan be?
Or somebody's getting nuked.
Oh my God.
We made
not what your friend said to you during the bin Laden raid.
These bitches is getting truculent.
That would be a great slogan.
I sell t-shirts. I started making 2 years ago. I'm buddies with Charlie Sheen. And we decided that
you're buddies with Charlie Sheen.
So we made ONeill Sheen 2024.
Okay.
And the campaign slogan,
like as a joke, though.
Yeah, but we have the shirts and the buttons.
Can I have a shirt?
Yeah, I'll get you one.
Okay,
no problem. But our motto was, the only problem is what if we win?
Fair point.
I will get you a shirt.
Fair point. Tiger blood is nowhere on that shirt.
I love Sheen. I love Charlie Sheen.
Yeah, he's a good dude. By the way, Charlie Sheen, welcome on the show anytime. Maybe we'll invite your buddy Rob ONeill back.
I'll make a call.
You know, even after leaving the military, your private ventures still, you know, promote your support and love for your fellow soldiers. You recently got involved with Armed Forces Brewing Company. Yes. Can you tell us a little bit about how that came to be, of course, besides your love of brewskis and the thought process behind it?
It started during the lockdowns. I was on Instagram like the rest of us in between Tiger King and whatever we were doing.
Were you making sourdough bread?
I actually was, yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
You were one of those.
Oh,
yeah. I
learned how to make a lot of stuff. But I saw it was called Seawolf Breweries, and I liked that because a Seawolf is a class of submarine. And they were out of Annapolis, which is where the Naval Academy is. And they look cool. So I DM'd them, and they sent us a 6-pack of Seawolf. And I was on a trip somewhere. My wife texted me and said, I don't know who sent this, but it's fucking awesome, is her words. So I got in touch with them, and they had different brands, but we wanted to make it for every member of the armed forces. So we have like Cat Shot, which is what shoots the plane off the carrier, Ground Pounder for the infantry, Special Hops for special ops, and stuff like that. So it's Armed Forces Brewing Company now. It has representation from all 5 branches. So Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines, and Space Force.
Space Force. People forget about that.
And we just bought a brewery in Norfolk, Virginia. We just opened up, I think, January.
Wow.
And it's awesome. Well, thank you. It's we've got some smart people running it and making the beer. The beer's great. Armed Forces Brewing Company. And there's a way you can invest. We've had some attorneys set up an investment, a way to invest for $200. You'd be part of the team. It's great. It's a really good beer.
Wow.
Armed Forces Brewing Company, yeah.
I love that. You know, you obviously are well aware of the impact that you have made on American history. What do you want the world to say about Rob ONeill 100 years from now? The operator, dad, good basketball player, like...
Proof that you can do anything you want as long as you apply yourself. I mentioned that I'm lucky. The way my wife puts it is you could step in a pile of shit, but you're going to find a diamond. The way that I put it, and I stole this quote from somebody, but it's I'm all about keep it simple, master the basics. Like when someone says, how did you clear bin Laden's house? It was so big. Well, if the guy in front of me went left, I went right, and we just did that over and over and over and over. Right. So but you need to make yourself available. So my favorite quote is, wherever you are, be there.
Love that. My last question here, and I thought long and hard about this one, and I'm sure you might have been asked before, but you know, the last page, because I did tell you I read this page.
I'm impressed. Yeah.
The last page of your book, you write, I've wondered if being the one who killed Osama bin Laden was the best thing to ever happen to me or the worst. I am still trying to figure that out. Since the early hours of May 2011 to today, have you figured it out yet?
No. It's one of those things now where I'm just telling you the story that happened. And there are people, you know, like we said, conspiracy theorists about everything. I've heard them all. I don't care. I can't, if you don't want to, not you, but if you don't want to believe me, I can't convince you. I can tell you what happened and that's it. It's not up to me for you to believe. Justice was served there and proof that a team can do anything. But, well, like even when people say, well, you killed a body double. I'm like, well, I killed the guy that was in bed with bin Laden's wife. So either way, he had it coming. So it's somebody in there. We got him. It was one of those things with, we got a Democrat in office, but we got a Republican in the Department of Defense, proven that when we need to do the right thing, we can as a nation, and it can trump politics, which I think is cool.
Yeah.
Best thing ever. I mean, it was great. It was great for the country, great to prove that we can send people somewhere to serve justice. So it was good. But like right now, people say, well, some people say you didn't kill bin Laden. I'm like, I really don't care.
Right.
It's not, I don't care.
Do you think you'll ever figure it out at some point?
I don't know. Hard to say. Maybe the daughters will teach me.
Yeah. Our country has been deeply divided for some time, as you just referenced, whether it's at home political issues, international, economic differences. But for a brief time in May of 2011, this country was united because of your team's selfless and courageous acts. There aren't enough ways to say thank you to the man from Butte, Montana, who killed the #1 most wanted terrorist in the world. As our country heads into politically uncertain, volatile times, it just keeps getting more volatile. It's important to remember our men and women in uniform who put their lives on the line for our safety, for our country, regardless of skin color, gender, race, political views. So thank you, Robert ONeill.
It was an honor to be there, to be picked part of the team, part of this nation, part of the coalition. It's one of those, again, just show up. You never know what can happen.
Thank you, Rob.
Thank you.
To all my viewers and listeners, be sure to rate, review, and subscribe to Reinvented with Jen Eckhart. That's available wherever you get your podcasts, Spotify, Apple, YouTube, iHeartRadio, you name it, it's there. That was Robert ONeill. I'm Jen Eckhart. Thank you for listening.